Alden Cross squinted through the polarized viewport in one of the lunar research stations that orbited just beyond the Sea of Tranquility. The facility's interior lights glowed with a sterile white hue, illuminating the meticulously organized corridors and labs. Outside, Earth hung in the distance, a luminous blue sphere that always reminded him of both mankind's fragility and its astonishing resilience. Here, in the hush of the moon's near vacuum, he and countless others devoted their expertise to a single aim, safeguarding that bright orb against any threat from the stars. He was a major general in the United Earth Coalition Defense Forces, and he rarely found time for wonder. Today was different, though. Something in the data logs from Pluto Outpost had demanded immediate attention, and he had cut short a scheduled inspection on Mars to arrive at the lunar complex. The outpost transmissions were erratic, like garbled static that sometimes formed patterns, but no one could interpret it fully. While many brushed it off as a glitch, Alden had learned to trust the instincts of the analysts working in that distant station. He walked quickly toward the primary communications lab, passing by staff who saluted or stepped aside with respectful nods. People here understood that Alden Cross, though calm in demeanor, had an unwavering sense of duty. The lab doors slid open with a hiss, revealing a spacious chamber lined with rows of holographic monitors. Scientists, engineers, and tactical officers were clustered around a central holographic table. In real time, the table displayed shifting lines of data, pulses of electromagnetic readings, and an overlay of the solar system. Dr. Kira Alto, a short woman with unruly dark hair and sharp eyes, looked up from her console as soon as Alden approached. "General," she said, pushing stray hair aside, "we've been analyzing these signals for the last 48 hours. At first, we thought we were dealing with a cosmic anomaly, some random background radiation. But these waveforms are too structured. They repeat in cycles, each precisely 3 hours long." Alden nodded. He stepped closer to the central hologram, studying the jagged lines of data that pulsed across the system map, apparently emanating from the vicinity of Pluto's orbit. "Are we certain it's not a glitch in the outpost's sensors?" "We ran multiple diagnostics," Kira replied. "Everything checks out. We even had Titan Station aim its long-range arrays to confirm. The reading is there, and it's strong. More than that, it's moving toward us. Slowly but steadily, yes. With each rotation, it's several thousand kilometers closer, as if it's approaching the outer perimeter of the solar system in a deliberate path." Silence fell among the gathered specialists, the unspoken question hanging in the air. Who, or what, would cross the unimaginable void of interstellar space to arrive here? Now, Alden felt a chill spread through his chest. They had planned for contact of many kinds, but the abruptness, the cryptic signals, it all felt disquieting. He cleared his throat. "We need to alert the Council. Prepare a secure briefing for the United Earth Coalition leadership. I want every major facility from Earth to Mars to the Belt on standby, and keep analyzing these signals." Before anyone could respond, a new wave of readings rolled across the holographic display. A swirling pattern of light indicated a power surge. Dr. Alto's eyes widened. "That's a spike in gravitational flux. It's not just standard electromagnetic signals anymore. It's as though a warp signature or FTL drive is being tested." Another wave of murmurs spread through the lab. Alden exhaled, trying to maintain composure. Over centuries, humanity had slowly developed faster-than-light technology, but had done so in secret, carefully concealed within the Trojan asteroid cluster and in hidden labs on the far side of Earth's moon. The official story was that Earth possessed only limited spacefaring capabilities. That story might not hold for much longer. Within the hour, a secure connection was established between the lunar facility and the UEC headquarters on Earth. Alden was ushered into a sealed communications room. On the wide holoscreen, faces appeared. President Aria Mendez, flanked by senior council members in a private war room in Geneva, each expression reflecting concern or skepticism. Mendez was tall, with her dark hair pulled into a neat bun, and her eyes shone with a sharp intelligence. She needed no reminder that, For centuries, humankind had quietly readied itself for the possibility of cosmic neighbors who might not arrive with peaceful intentions. Alden summarized the situation: the approaching signals, the gravity flux, the projected path that led toward the outer edges of the solar system. Mendez pressed her fingertips together. The Pluto outpost confirms an unidentified fleet might be en route. As of this moment, ma'am, it's a strong possibility. We're not seeing random cosmic dust. The patterns match certain theoretical models of advanced drive signatures. Another council member, an older man with steely gray hair, frowned. Then the question remains, do we attempt to greet them, or do we go dark and see if they pass us by? Mendez hesitated. Historically, we prepared for an encounter like this with a layered approach. First, we'd monitor covertly, gather intelligence, attempt a peaceful hail, if necessary. But we should also prepare for the worst. Alden's voice was steady. We've spent generations hiding the full extent of our technology, partly out of fear that we'd become a target. If these visitors are hostile, we'll have only one chance at a strong, coordinated response. I recommend partial mobilization. A hush fell. Everyone understood the weight behind that term. Partial mobilization meant readying the hidden defense platforms on the lunar far side, the kinetic rail batteries in the asteroid belt, and even the more experimental systems that most Earth citizens never knew existed. At last, Mendez nodded. Granted, but keep it subtle. No public announcements. We don't want panic. And if there's any chance these arrivals come in peace, we should not appear overtly aggressive. Alden bowed his head in acknowledgement. Within the next hour, encrypted channels buzzed with activity throughout Earth's network of off-world stations. Commanders prepped dormant railguns, stealth frigates flickered to life, and engineers in enclosed labs put finishing touches on advanced FTL vessels that had never before seen open deployment. All the while, the general population remained unaware, continuing daily life under the illusion that Earth was mostly defenseless beyond nuclear arms and modest orbital stations. Days passed. The signals grew clearer, the gravitational flux more intense. Pluto outposts began to experience anomalous communications failures. Transmissions were cut short at random intervals, as though an alien hand were deliberately interfering. Alden Cross, relocating temporarily to the Mars Command Complex, worked around the clock with DR, Alto, and other specialists to decode even fragments of the signals. Their findings were troubling. Repeated patterns that resembled language constructs, though layered in a complex encryption. If it was a language, it was both advanced and intentionally obfuscated. And then, one cold Martian morning, the signals stopped abruptly. For nearly a full rotation, everything went silent. Alden, half expecting an ambush, ordered constant vigilance. No one anticipated what happened next. The unidentified fleet appeared without warning in the direct vicinity of Pluto, overshadowing the dwarf planet with half a dozen massive vessels. They matched none of the crude, hypothetical designs Earth's analysts had speculated on. These vessels had elongated, blade-like silhouettes, with purple luminescence that shimmered across their hulls, suggesting advanced energy fields. Earth's telescopes and outposts, meticulously scanning them from hidden vantage points, counted more than 50 capital ships in total, plus countless smaller escorts. The first sign of trouble came when Pluto Outpost's feed went dark. Then a wave of transmissions shot through the system, flooding channels in a single statement. To the inhabitants of this star system, surrender or be purged. The voice was deep, resonant, each syllable clipped as though translated by an alien intelligence. Back on Earth, President Mendez gathered the council in an emergency session. Images from the dethroned outpost revealed black-suited soldiers, presumably from the visiting species, seizing control of Pluto Outpost communication arrays. The unknown visitors identified themselves as the Acheron, an empire spanning an uncountable stretch of space. The feed cut to an Acheron leader, introduced as Supreme Regent Vorkal. Tall, sharp-featured, with pale, almost translucent skin and an imposing crest on his forehead, he stood surrounded by subordinates. His tone oozed confidence when he spoke. Humans of Earth, your technology is primitive, your defenses negligible. Submit to the dominion of the Acheron Empire. You have one of your days to comply. The council's reaction was swift and divided. Some demanded a show of force. Others urged quiet negotiation. Alden Cross advised a hybrid approach. Open communication lines for diplomatic contact, but keep the hidden defenses on full alert. We can't reveal all our cards, he insisted, but we also need to try to talk them down. Mendez conceded. A single message was sent from Earth to the Acheron flagship. We acknowledge your contact and propose to meet for peaceful negotiation. The Acheron response came within minutes, displayed for all to see in the council war room. You have nothing we want but submission. There will be no peace on equal terms. Decide your fate, surrender, or be annihilated. The president's lips tightened. So that's their game. We must let them think we're weaker than we are. If we strike first with everything we have, we risk exposing ourselves to a broader empire that might send even more reinforcements. The hours ticked by. All the while, the entire solar system seemed to hold its breath. The Acheron fleet advanced slowly inwards from Pluto's orbit, seizing small outposts along the way. The skeleton crews stationed on these outer posts were quickly overrun. Earth scanners, hidden behind layered decoys, quietly captured every detail of Acheron warship design and tactics. Dr. Alto's team discovered that the Acheron shielding was heavily optimized against energy weapons, but might be vulnerable to physical projectiles moving at extreme velocities. They turned to night on Earth. The ultimatum's deadline loomed. Across the globe, the general populace had limited knowledge of the threat. Official announcements mentioned a cosmic phenomenon causing communication disruptions, and only top-tier officials knew the entire truth. In an underground chamber in Geneva, President Mendez conferred with Alden Cross and the rest of the council for what might be humanity's most critical decision in centuries. We can't wait for them to blow apart our defenses, Alden said. We have to deliver a message, and that message should be that Earth is not some naive target. Mendez stood, her posture stiff. I agree. Let's put them on notice. She glanced at her communications director. Patch me through to the Acheron flagship. Seconds later, an enormous holographic display flickered to life, revealing Regent Vorkel's formidable visage. His alien eyes narrowed. At last, you see reason? Are you prepared to accept your place under the Empire? Mendez's voice was calm, but it carried the timbre of steel. Supreme Regent Vorkel, this is President Aria Mendez of the United Earth Coalition. We have considered your ultimatum thoroughly. Our answer is no. A hush settled over the council war room. On the other side, Vorkel's lips twisted in disapproval. Then your world will burn. Do you have any final plea for mercy? The president's eyes flicked to Alden Cross. Then, in a measured tone, she spoke words that would echo across every hidden fortress, every quiet station in the outer solar system, and indeed, every Acheron sensor that was monitoring them. You chose war, and now, we will show you how it's won. At that instant, Alden Cross transmitted the activation codes across covert frequencies. Within minutes, countless concealed defense installations powered up, revealing rail batteries hidden on the moon's far side and missile silos cloaked within asteroids. Warships, built in secret over decades, shimmered into existence, their stealth plating disengaging. The Acheron fleet spread in a formation that left them vulnerable to rapid, concentrated strikes, began to sense the shifts in energy readings. Vorkel's calm facade cracked. Impossible. We scanned your system for advanced weaponry. There was none. You saw only what we wanted you to see, Mendez replied. Centuries ago, humanity learned that survival sometimes depends on hiding your hand until the right moment. Chaos ensued in near space. Thousands of kinetic impactors launched from the lunar installations, each projectile accelerated to a fraction of light speed, slamming into Acheron cruisers before their energy shields could recalibrate to handle physical strikes of such velocity. Several capital ships ruptured, massive hulls splintering and venting atmosphere in a silent burst visible only on sensors. The Acheron scrambled, returning fire with energy beams that scorched the blackness of space. But Earth's newly revealed gravitic shields, stationed around key bases, diffused much of the incoming barrage. One by one, Acheron cruisers fell out of formation as railgun spikes pierced them or experimental disruptor beams rendered their weapon systems useless. Vorkul's flagship, larger and more robustly shielded, endured the brunt of these hits and managed to launch counterstrikes at the asteroid belt, destroying a few decoy facilities. But the damage to his overall fleet was severe. Even as the battle raged, Alden Cross coordinated with other Earth generals from a hidden command center on Mars. They employed FTL-capable corvettes, weaving in and out of detection range, launching targeted strikes that sowed confusion among the Acheron ranks. The once mighty Acheron armada found itself outmaneuvered by foes they had assumed would be easily subdued. In less than 6 hours, half the Acheron vessels were reduced to debris. The rest, including the flagship, retreated to a safe distance near Neptune. Medical and rescue ships from Earth, ironically, were dispatched to help survivors on the destroyed outposts, as humanity had no desire to see more death than necessary. The Council broadcast a single directive: should the Acheron choose to cease hostilities, they would be allowed safe withdrawal. Earth had demonstrated it would not be conquered easily. On board his battered flagship, Regent Vorkul seethed. Never in the Empire's recorded history had they encountered a species that deceived them so thoroughly. His subcommanders argued, some advocating a final stand to salvage their honor, others insisting they attempt negotiations now that the humans had proven formidable. Vorkul's personal pride was wounded, yet the rational side of him recognized that further immediate assault could lead to utter defeat. Meanwhile, Earth's forces caught their breath. Heavy losses of unmanned stations and some casualties among the hidden outposts weighed on Alden Cross. In the Council war room, the triumphant mood was tempered by grief for the fallen. Mendez ordered a full damage assessment. The lunar railguns had used a staggering amount of stored energy, and the entire system's resources needed reallocation. Not all the damage was external. News that Earth was, in fact, far from defenseless stirred unease among certain portions of the public who had never imagined their leaders had lied so extensively for the sake of security. Some demanded transparency, while others recognized that secrecy might well have saved them from invasion. The Council faced a new dilemma: how much to reveal about these advanced technologies now that an interstellar conflict had become a reality. Diplomatic channels opened tentatively. Arya Mendez agreed to speak with Vorkul under a limited ceasefire. The transmissions were terse. The Regent wore an expression of barely restrained fury as he appeared, replete with the regalia of his office. "Your defiance is misguided," he spat. "The Acheron Empire spans hundreds of worlds. You cannot possibly outlast our might." Mendez offered a controlled smile. "Perhaps we cannot. But we can make any conquest of Earth so costly that it won't be worth the attempt. We do not seek war, Supreme Regent. Withdraw from our territory and leave us in peace." Vorkul's second-in-command, a younger figure named Grand Marshal Hethera, listened in stony silence from behind the Regent. Something about her demeanor, slightly less rigid, more inquisitive, made Dr. Alto note it with interest. She signaled to Alden privately that this marshal might be more open to reason. But the ceasefire was short-lived. Fearing a loss of empire-wide prestige if the humans were not swiftly subdued, Vorkul issued new orders to rally the rest of the Acheron war fleet stationed in a nearby system. He planned to unleash a devastating assault on Earth's defenses, one the Regent was convinced would shatter any illusions the humans held about matching the Empire's might. Within Earth's command network, Alden Cross, Mendez, and the Council braced for what they feared might be an even more catastrophic conflict. They fortified their lines, layered more decoys, and scrambled the stealth corvettes to the outer edges once again. Engineers worked frantically to bolster the drained railgun power supplies and reposition crucial infrastructure out of likely firing arcs. During this time, an encrypted signal reached Dr. Alto Station. It originated from within the Acheron fleet, but it was disguised cleverly enough to avoid immediate detection by Vorkel's intelligence. When decrypted, the message revealed itself to be from Hethra. She identified herself as an Acheron who believed in the possibility of negotiation, one who recognized that continuing the campaign against Earth might be fatal. "I cannot openly act against my regent," she wrote, "yet I see that your species fights with cunning and courage. Perhaps an accommodation could spare both sides further bloodshed." This clandestine message sparked intense discussion among Earth's leadership. Trusting it could be a trap was a concern, but they had little to lose by replying. A coded response was sent, offering an open door to deeper negotiations if Hethra found an opportunity to pursue them. In the meantime, preparations for battle continued, a silent countdown to the next strike. The Acheron reinforcement flotilla arrived at Neptune a week later, dreadnoughts bristling with advanced beam arrays, carriers loaded with new forms of starfighters, and what looked like a superweapon installed on the largest capital ship. Analyst teams on Earth argued about its nature, describing it as a transdimensional cannon or perhaps a gravitational disruptor. All they knew for sure was that it could not be allowed to fire on Earth. In those final hours, President Mendez addressed the planet in a broadcast that overcame her earlier secrecy. She explained they were facing a dire threat, that the illusions of meager defenses were part of a grand strategy to stave off conquest. She admitted people might feel betrayed, yet the survival of humanity had depended on strategic deception. To many, her message was a relief. It proved Earth was not helpless. Support for the government's approach, though not universal, remained strong enough to rally the population. As the Acheron fleet accelerated inwards, the hidden Earth ships assembled in key positions, behind Mars, within the dense clusters of the asteroid belt, and in the shadow of Jupiter's large moons. Alden Cross took command from a newly unveiled flagship, the ESS Resolute, an FTL-capable warship outfitted with the gravitic shields and a prototype dimensional disruptor. He had never imagined leading so many advanced vessels in open combat, but necessity had forced them to reveal Earth's hidden might. The second engagement began without preamble. The largest Acheron dreadnought fired a warning shot with a beam that sliced through an uninhabited dwarf station, vaporizing it within seconds. Earth responded. Kinetic rods from Luna soared across the vacuum, zeroing in on lesser capital ships. Smaller Earth corvettes executed micro-FTL jumps, weaving around Acheron escorts and peppering them with disruptor pulses. Explosions lit the darkness, silent but savage. Amid the chaos, the superweapon on the new Acheron flagship began to charge, building a swirl of energy that created distortions in the local gravitational field. Alarms rang throughout the ESS Resolute as Cross recognized the signs of a doomsday device preparing to unleash unstoppable devastation. Dr. Alto, aboard a near-Earth station, searched for a countermeasure. Then a surprising turn took shape. Even as Vorkel commanded the final countdown for that massive weapon, an internal struggle broke out on the Acheron flagship. Hethra and a group of officers who believed the war unwinnable sabotaged the superweapon's energy conduits. Earth sensors detected a sudden surge and then a near meltdown within the flagship's core. That sabotage crippled the dreadnought's main cannon, preventing it from unleashing its lethal power. Sensing his doom, Regent Vorkel tried to override the sabotage, but his subordinates wrested control. Earth's forces, unaware of the details, simply saw the weapon's readings drop to minimal. The entire flagship went dark for a moment, drifting. Alden Cross seized the opportunity. He transmitted a system-wide message. Acheron vessels, stand down. We have no desire to annihilate you. Stop your aggression now, and you may retreat unscathed. Seconds stretched into an eternity. Then, one by one, the Acheron dreadnoughts and carriers halted their advance. Some tried to reorganize for a final push, but without leadership, confusion reigned. Meanwhile, Earth's guns remained locked on them. Cross repeated the call to stand down. On the Acheron flagship, Hethra and her loyalists declared Regent Vorkal unfit to lead, effectively forcing his abdication. Vorkal raged, but he was powerless in the face of mutiny. With the Empire's chain of command shattered at the local level, Hethra took control and initiated contact with Earth, announcing, "We request negotiations. Our fleet will cease fire and withdraw from your space, if you permit it. Let there be no more bloodshed." A stunned hush fell across Earth's channels. Mendez, at the Council, broke the silence. "We accept your proposal. Our only conditions: you leave our system and do not return without our express consent. Should you attempt to retaliate, we are prepared." Thus ended the Second Great Battle. Earth's defenses had held, but it was the Acheron internal coup that truly prevented a catastrophic weapon from firing. Though illusions of absolute victory were premature, there was a growing possibility that a peaceful accord might take shape. The battered Acheron fleet limped beyond Neptune's orbit, assembling in a holding pattern. Earth, not wanting to push a wounded enemy too far, allowed them safe passage but insisted on continuing negotiations. In the aftermath, the entire solar system witnessed both triumph and sorrow. The silent wrecks of destroyed ships, Acheron and Earth decoys alike, drifted amid the scattered remains of orbiting debris. Casualties on both sides stained the notion of an easy or glorious victory. But for the first time in living memory, humankind had proven not only that it could defend itself against a powerful alien empire, but also that it could extend the hand of mercy rather than exact total destruction. Once her position was secure, Hethra opened direct communications from the edge of the system. The new leader asked for an in-person summit, presumably on neutral ground. Mendez agreed, and so the stage was set for a truly unprecedented event. The first formal diplomatic encounter between Earth and a formerly hostile alien empire. That meeting would be held on the Martian colony of New Horizon, a city encapsulated beneath massive glass domes, with its own air, water, and farmland. The symbolism was not lost on either side. Mars had once been a dead world, but now stood as a testament to humanity's ability to adapt and terraform. If an entire planet could be reshaped, might not an entire empire's perspective also be changed? Major General Alden Cross and Dr. Kira Alto were among those selected to welcome Hethra's delegation. When the Acheron shuttle touched down inside a secure Martian landing dome, the tension was palpable. Troops ringed the perimeter, discreetly armed with advanced rifles. Overhead, the tinted sky glowed a faint ochre, reminding everyone how different Mars was from Earth's lush fields. The air had a processed crispness, kept stable by life support systems. Hethra emerged from the shuttle, flanked by a handful of Acheron officers. There was a moment of silence as both sides regarded each other in person for the first time. Hethra was taller and more lithe than expected, her pale skin and distinct facial crest emblematic of her species. A subdued humility tempered her step, as though she recognized the precarious nature of the alliance she hoped to forge. Alden Cross stepped forward, offering a respectful nod. "Grand Marshal," he began, using the title by which her dispatches had referred to her. "Welcome to Mars." She inclined her head in return. "General Cross, thank you for receiving us. We come to find a path that may save many lives on both sides." Few words were spoken as they left the landing zone and traveled to a dome near the city center. There, President Mendez and other council members waited in a secure conference chamber. Views of the sprawling Martian habitats surrounded them, a testament to human ingenuity. Hethra studied it all with an expression that suggested curiosity and perhaps a touch of admiration. The negotiations commenced. Mendez made it clear that Earth sought no subjugation of Acheron worlds, but would brook no further aggression in its own star system. Hethra, newly elevated to a position of authority after ousting Vorkal, carefully explained that the Acheron Empire had long believed in conquest as the only way to prosper, but recent events proved that approach might lead to devastating losses. A portion of the Empire's leadership still viewed humanity as a threat, though. "We do not pretend that one summit can undo centuries of imperial doctrine," Hethra admitted. but I hope it will be enough to persuade our people to reconsider the path of endless expansion. In the days and weeks that followed, a preliminary accord was reached. The Acheron would withdraw fully from Earth's solar system, relinquishing any claim on human territory. Earth, in turn, would not push deeper into Acheron space nor attempt to incite rebellion among the Empire's client worlds. Each side agreed to a monitoring protocol, employing ambassadors and establishing a carefully limited exchange of technology, mostly non-military. All of this was overshadowed by the question, could the Empire truly pivot away from conquest? Or would it seek vengeance once it had licked its wounds? Earth's leadership could not dismiss the possibility of future conflict, and so the hidden factories, the stealth labs, and the advanced warships remained operational. Yet there was also the faint glimmer of hope that perhaps an empire that had never known defeat might learn from this humbling experience and alter its long-held ways. A month after the summit, humanity's efforts to rebuild its outer stations and restore full functionality to Pluto Outpost bore fruit. Relieved crew members reclaimed their positions, and a wave of new recruits arrived, invigorated by the knowledge that the system was still under threat, however subdued it might be for now. For Alden Cross, the greatest shift was not in the physical reconstruction, but in the public mindset. The world at large knew Earth was not some minor civilization. The illusions had been dispelled. Millions of ordinary citizens, once blissfully unaware, came to understand that humankind had spent centuries preparing in silence. Now that the secret was out, the debate raged. Should Earth unify its off-world colonies more openly, building a truly interplanetary society under public scrutiny? Or should it maintain pockets of secrecy in case more advanced, less scrupulous foes arrived? President Mendez addressed these concerns in a global broadcast. She spoke from the same war room where, just weeks before, she had refused Acheron demands of submission. The time of illusions has ended, she stated gravely. We remain vigilant for any threat. Yet let the lesson stand. It was not merely the strength of our hidden weapons that won the day, but our unity, our conviction that survival does not require obliterating our enemy. We chose a path that allowed for negotiation even after conflict. That choice must define us. Behind closed doors, some in the Council urged the assimilation of Acheron technology, the reverse engineering of anything the Empire might have that could surpass Earth's capabilities. Others pressed for more conciliatory gestures, believing mutual trust might transform a one-time enemy into an ally. Mendez charted a careful middle course, ensuring defenses stayed robust, while also letting a small delegation of Acheron observers study aspects of Earth's culture, from environmental design to social governance. It was an unprecedented exchange, open to an empire that had invaded only weeks earlier. But among humanity's greatest strengths was an ability to extend a hand rather than a closed fist, when it served the interest of long-term peace. Meanwhile, Hethra grappled with her own empire's turmoil. Once the regent was deposed, factions loyal to conquest demanded retribution. Hethra responded by describing Earth's formidable might, emphasizing that a renewed assault would lead the empire to devastation. Yet, as with any society, not all believed in a new direction. Rumors of loyalist warlords who might break away from the empire and launch guerrilla strikes against Earth persisted. For the moment, though, Hethra held the highest seat of authority. She sent repeated messages to Mendez and Cross, pledging to uphold the Martian Accord, as the newly signed treaty was being called. During all this, Alden Cross found his schedule consumed by the intricacies of reorganizing Earth's defense network. He and Dr. Kira Alto oversaw the system-wide recalibration of sensors and fortifications, making them more adaptable should the Acheron or another hostile force ever come calling again. Part of him felt a sense of relief that, after centuries of secrecy, Earth's real capabilities were now known. Another part of him feared this would only draw more attention from the wider galaxy. Late one evening, Alden walked alone across the enclosed walkway that connected Mars Command to the habitat domes. The simulated sky above glimmered with artificial stars, No one had bothered to hide them behind black filters now that secrecy was less paramount. He reflected on the pivotal words that had changed history. You chose war, and now we will show you how it's won. The human race had indeed chosen to make a stand, but they had also chosen not to deliver a final blow when they had the chance. Perhaps that was the real demonstration of victory. The power to end a threat, combined with the wisdom not to wield that power in a bloodbath. He remembered the first glimpses he ever had of Earth from the moon, years ago, thinking about how beautiful and fragile it was. Today, that sense of awe was magnified. They had faced an interstellar empire that arrived with overwhelming force. Through ingenuity, courage, and unity, they had persevered. The cost was high, the risk immense, but it was done. And now Earth had stepped onto the stage of interstellar politics with surprising authority. A final note arrived from HFY, an official communique that was delivered to the Council, thanking them for sparing the Acheron forces and for allowing the possibility of a new relationship. Alden, reading over the lines, wondered if the future might hold genuine cooperation. Could a society built on conquest pivot to mutual respect? The message ended with a line that seemed almost curious, coming from an Acheron. We look forward to learning how you turned war into a chance for transformation. Earth, too, would have to transform. No longer a hidden fortress, no longer an underdog carefully masking its teeth. The galaxy was vast, and there were surely other empires, other species, each with its own motivations. If Earth was to thrive in that larger cosmic landscape, it needed to stand not simply as a fortress, but also as a beacon, perhaps offering a path to those who might follow. In the ensuing months, ambassadors from Earth and the Acheron Empire exchanged envoys, carefully orchestrating visits to each other's star systems. HFY's influence began to reshape certain policies, though pockets of resistance remained. Vorkal, stripped of rank, was exiled to a remote outpost, a living symbol of what arrogance could bring upon the Empire. Some of the younger Acheron officers studied Earth's layered approach to warfare, seeing in it not just brute force, but a sophisticated interplay of deception and technology. In turn, Earth scientists gleaned insights from the alien warp drives, hoping to refine humanity's FTL designs. All these developments were overshadowed by the memory of how close the system came to annihilation when the Acheron superweapon powered up. At that moment, humanity had faced a doomsday scenario. Only a final, fortuitous act of sabotage had saved them. When Alden Cross lay awake at night, he sometimes pondered if humans had grown too reliant on last-minute luck, on the moral choices of an enemy. But in the end, it was the chain of events triggered by Earth's demonstration of formidable defenses and that singular decision not to annihilate a beaten foe. Such decisions, repeated across history, might define civilizations in the cosmos. As weeks blended into months, Earth's carefully cloaked orbitals and battered outposts were repaired and upgraded. On Earth itself, public discourse shifted from shock to cautious optimism. The knowledge that humanity had advanced FTL ships began to excite many. Students in universities clamored for a chance to study starship engineering or xenobiology, hoping for a future that extended beyond the solar system. For the first time, leaving the system no longer seemed a distant dream, but a near certainty. President Mendez announced a new initiative, the Interplanetary Collaboration Forum, inviting not just the Acheron, but any other intelligent species Earth might encounter to talk, trade, and hopefully share. Though critics claimed it was naive, pointing out that more warlike species would never share peacefully, Mendez insisted that Earth's greatest strength was more than hardware or bombs. It was the capacity to extend the possibility of peaceful progress, even in the face of hostility. In a ceremonial event months after the battles, the UEC unveiled a new flagship, the EIS Aurora, built with both Earth and Acheron design elements. HFY, along with a few other alien dignitaries, attended the commissioning on Earth's moon. Standing beside Alden Cross, she admitted that the day felt surreal. Two species that had so recently tried to kill each other, now forging a collaborative starship. It didn't erase the past, but it illuminated a future in which conflicts could evolve into something more. And so, the lessons of that decisive phrase, "You chose war, and now we will show you how it's won," echoed. Humanity had proven its willingness to fight when necessary, but even more importantly, had demonstrated mercy and an openness to dialogue once the invader realized conquest was futile. Not everyone within either society was completely satisfied. Military hardliners wanted more decisive control over the empire's territory, while radical Acheron factions yearned for revenge. But in the precarious balance of interstellar relations, compromise was the thread that might hold the tapestry together long enough for trust to form. Alden Cross closed the pages of a digital log one evening, high above Earth in a new orbital station that replaced some of the decoys. He gazed through the observation window, watching that beautiful swirl of blue and white. Humanity's home. It would still take generations to unify fully as a space-faring civilization. But they had taken the first step, had emerged from centuries of guarded secrecy, and had stared down a formidable empire. If there were others out there, Earth would be ready. Looking out, he felt a mix of pride and humility. War had nearly consumed them. It was the decision not to be consumed by vengeance that stood out. The real triumph, in Alden's eyes, lay not in the destruction of enemy ships, but in the forging of an improbable peace. One day, perhaps, the Acheron would look back at the moment they demanded Earth's surrender and see how it set in motion a chain of events that remade both civilizations. In the quiet hum of the station, he murmured the words that had shaken the galaxy and redefined humanity's place among the stars. "You chose war, and now we will show you how it's won." He closed his eyes, letting the enormity of what had been achieved wash over him. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for tonight, at least, Earth and its newfound sense of unity stood strong beneath the glittering stars.